Oh man, I just really need a new podcast episode for the hyperfixation, but I don't know who to ask. Oh, I see. Plaquas is online. Maybe I can go ask him. Hey, Plaquas, can you help me by recording an episode of the hyperfixation?
Wow, Roma, I would love to, but I've just been so busy solving this puzzle for the last 2 weeks and I can't figure it out. But maybe if you can help me out with solving this conundrum, I can return the favor by guesting.
Huh? Oh, okay. It's making everything in me not to lose face. I wanted to laugh the whole time. Oh.
That was really bad, but in like a really good way. So
I loved it. Anime voice. Welcome to the Hyperfixation, where my friends come onto our show and tell us about things that excite them for 30 to 45 minutes or longer, because you know what? The timer is a lie. My name is Roma. I use the they and them pronouns, and today I am joined by our returning guest host, Plaquas.
hello. I'm back, and let's just do this properly. My pronouns are he, him. My name is Plaquas. Blah blah blah. You know, I'm kind of notorious since the start for being a person who does not listen to the timer, right?
Nope, no timer.
I think I'm gonna try to actually keep it within the timer today.
Holy
No
shit.
promises, because I've said this like 4 times already, and it ended up being like 3-hour episodes. But this time, I think we got it.
I think we got it this time. We got the recipe down.
I think we got it. We got anime voice down, podcast voice down. What else? What else is there?
Well, let's see.
The British voice.
The British. I can't do a British one. Oh, I can get real Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring it real down low. So you've been famously on this show to talk about Kingdom Hearts, which I think a lot of people, when they come to this episode, are going to be shocked that that's not what we're talking about today. Absolutely flabbergasted. What are we talking about today?
You know, that's a really good question and a big mystery that we're gonna solve today. So we're gonna talk about Professor Layton, which is a game about solving mysteries. We're specifically talking about the second game because that's my favorite. It's a really good game series. I just really love it.
I've always wanted to play it. I've always seen it at like the store or seen stuff about it, but I've just never actually sat down and played it before.
I highly recommend it. It's like it's one of these games that I played as a young child. I don't really remember how old I was. Probably like 9 or 10 years old. Maybe 11, but like somewhere around that range. And I know people often say like, oh, blah 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 has changed my brain chemistry or something, but like in a joking way. But Professor Layton literally did that for me, because these puzzles, it's just an incredible game to play. I think especially as like a kid or teenager growing up, but also like later in life. But it really teaches you about thinking outside of the box, quite literally, in puzzles that you have to solve, where most, or like, at least like a lot of them, really are like trick questions, and then the other half are just like actual puzzles that you have to work through. Um, and I think in getting to know all these trick questions and kind of learning to recognize them and recognize that way of thinking, it has actually changed the way that I look at media and like analyze things, um, which is really cool, I think.
Mhm.
Um, that's a very incoherent way to start an episode, I think. Maybe I should just introduce you to what Professor Layton is exactly.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Because like you've seen some stuff around, you said. How much do you know about it?
Uh, I know okay, uh, I don't remember what year it was. I just remember I was young enough to where they had Nintendo DS, like, display cases,
Ooh.
in stores, with all, like, the games that you can get with the Nintendo DS, and, Professor Layton games were in there, and I remember staring at it for an unreasonable amount of time as a child and just, like, I guess, analyzing with my little neurodivergent brain about what's going on in there, so I I know it's the dude with the top hat and there's, like, a sidekick, but
Yes.
otherwise, I think I might have picked up that it was a puzzle game, but I never that was, like, literally that's the farthest extent I've had, and actually recently, Professor Layton came up in a video I was watching on YouTube. It was a stream, and I was like, "Huh, maybe I should actually get into that. Maybe I should." And then that's when I saw on the guest host submission form that you said Professor Layton. I'm like, that's it. It's time. I get to know. I get to understand.
Yes. Yeah, it's recently come up again because it's been kind of in a slumber since the prequel trilogy that was mostly for the 3DS ended. And then there was this weird mobile game spin-off that I think no one ever played and no one ever talks about, which would be interesting to dive into sometime.
hmm
And then later on in the life cycle of the 3DS, I think they released like the sequel game that was about, I think, his daughter. But that one was like really a step back from the other games and was kind of like really childish and kind of lost like the interesting serious themes and mysteries that Professor Layton normally brought. So that really flopped hard, and then it was just like radio silence for like 10 years or something. I don't really know, but for for a long time.
hmm
Um, and then I think somewhere last year at a Nintendo Direct, a sequel was announced for the Switch, or possibly the Switch 2, because it's releasing in 2025.
There you go.
So it has kind of been back on people's radars for the last year. So
hmm
yeah, it's indeed a puzzle game. It's also kind of a detective game. There's always this kind of not really a murder mystery, but kind of a whodunit atmosphere and central mystery to the game that a lot of puzzles are just attached to. Um, I'm gonna bring it back to Kingdom Hearts because, of course,
Of
um,
course.
when I talked about Chain of Memories, the whole theme of that game was cards. Everything was cards. The um, battle system was cards. The worlds were cards and stuff. Professor Layton is kind of that, but puzzles. Everything is puzzles. And it's really funny because in the first game, there's a canonical reason as to why everyone gives you puzzles, which is kind of clever. But then in the
hmm
second game, they were kind of just like, no, we can't actually fit something like that in. This is just how this world works, I guess, which is something that I always find really funny because you get these really weird situations where I think there's like um so they're on a chase for like someone who supposedly murdered someone, and then they ask this guy on the street like, hey, did you see like this man with his cape just running by? um and then that guy is like, well, you're just gonna ask an old man for a favor without helping him first. How about you solve this puzzle and then maybe I'll tell you what I saw? And then sometimes the game gets like meta, and Luke, the sidekick of Professor Layton, is like, uh, seriously, at this time? And then you have to solve a puzzle in this like super high intense moment, which is really funny. Um,
Mhm.
but
We don't
like,
have time for this.
we don't have time for this, and then you still have to solve the puzzle. It brings some really funny moments because the game just doesn't take itself. It takes itself seriously, but it doesn't like take itself so seriously that they're not gonna give you a puzzle.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'd say the games are like really story driven, and they have elements of like a point and click adventure where you really have to tap on like the things you see on your screen that are interesting. Sometimes you get hint coins for puzzles. Sometimes you get hidden puzzles or just like dialogue or actual people that you talk to.
Mhm.
Um, and um, it's just really funny. The puzzles are also like really diverse because sometimes it's literally almost like a jigsaw puzzle, but then, for example, you have this suitcase that you have to fill with all your luggage for this trip that they're going on, and then you have these like Tetris blocks that are like, oh, a square is, for example, a folded shirt, but then there's also a frying pan shape, and that's literally a frying pan, and you have to like find how like suitcase. Um,
Mhm.
Then there are also like the sliding puzzles where it's like, oh, you have this ball on this one side and you have to slide the blocks out of the way to get it to the other side. There's chess puzzles.
They have
Wh-
all these that's a lot of different kinds of puzzles. That keeps it
Yeah,
really entertaining.
yeah, and then there's also just literal riddles or like mazes that you have to say like, oh, where do you have to start to reach the end of the maze at point A, B, or C, or something like that. So it's really diverse, which is really fun.
Mhm. Ah, so is the game at all this is gonna be kinda out of left field, but I've literally never seen any of the gameplay. Is everything 2D or does it turn 3D when you start playing?
The first four games are all 2D. Um, and then they get to the 3DS games, and I have not yet played those. They are. I'm currently on like a replay, and have played the first four games again. But I've
Mhm.
never actually played game 5 and 6, though I do plan on playing them soon. But then in the exploration kind of part of the gameplay, you do have a 3D environment. I don't know. Have you played Ace Attorney?
I have not actually. I
Ah,
that was a
okay.
that Ace
Okay.
Attorney sits next to Professor Layton. I know a little bit more about Ace Attorney than I do Professor Layton, but that was another game that I stared at in the Nintendo DS case at the Target.
Yeah.
Um, and never ended up actually playing.
They are often like compared, which is rightfully so, I think, because they hit a lot of similar points. They have a lot of similarities. There's a crossover game, which is really fun too. So you have court cases, but also Professor Layton puzzles, and the characters interact with each other and stuff, and it's really fun. Um, but yeah, Professor Layton occupies this brain space for me that's like really kind of unique because they have this world with its inner logic, and then the main mystery of this game that I want to focus on today, which is called the Diabolical Box, or Pandora's Box in Europe.
Mhm.
Um, the central mystery is that there is like this box that when you open it, you die, basically.
Oh, okay.
Um, And the game presents it as like there is some sort of solution to this because that cannot exist. Like
No.
a box that kills you when you open it does not exist. That's like a fictional thing. So there has to be some kind of mystery to it. But then the solution of the mystery is always something that also couldn't happen in real life. But it is totally like conceivable in the Professor Layton world, so to say. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it's in the canon, totally logical. In real world,
Yeah.
not so much.
Yeah. Although the mystery is like totally illogical in both. And it's really interesting how the games manage to make that line where it's like the mystery of the third game is that you travel to the future. And throughout the entire game, it's like, well, we couldn't possibly really be in the future, right? And then they have to solve the mystery. And it turns out that, wow, who would have thought they aren't actually in the future, which is pretty obvious since the start. But the actual solution to it is still like really wild. But I find that fascinating and like really
Mhm.
fun. Um,
It feels very
so
whimsy.
yeah, yeah, but
Mhm.
it's I love it. I love it so much.
Oh my goodness. So do the games have like a plot continuity across all of them, or do they kind of stay within their own like games?
The first three games, there is a continuity, but the first three games can be played separately without really any problem. Then the prequel trilogy can also be played without playing the first trilogy, but um, there's a lot more continuity in the prequels because there's more of like a recurring villain in that one,
Mm,
and more of a like plot line that connects those games.
mhm.
But generally, throughout the story, I would recommend it to play it chronologically because it's also just getting to know the characters, and the later games do expand on the characters in a way that um, you you kind of want to have the context of the earlier games for,
Okay.
if that makes sense too.
Yeah. Um,
So the second game, my favorite.
mhm.
Um, like I said, it's called the diabolical box, and we have this box that kills you when you um, open it, and that's immediately explained in like the introduction of the game. And Professor Layton receives a letter from his old mentor, um, that he has got his hands on this box. Um, and he has been researching it for a while, and now he finally like can't contain his curiosity anymore. So he tells Layton in the letter, "I'm gonna open the box. I don't think anything's gonna happen to me because like I'm this scientist and I don't believe in a box that kills you.
Mhm.
Um, However, if you don't hear from me in like a couple of days or something, um, please continue my research." So Layton and his sidekick, who is called Luke, who I really related to when I was younger, and I find like a really fascinating and really nice character. Um, they go to Dr. Schrader, that's the mentor's apartment, um, and they find that he is dead, and
No.
the box is nowhere to be found. Um, So you investigate the crime scene a bit and you discover that he has a train ticket for like this luxury train. Um, but the train ticket doesn't have a destination on it. And
Hmm.
then that's one of the first mystery pop-ups. Throughout the game you get these different mysteries to solve. So I think the first one is actually the box itself, and then the second one is like what's up with this train ticket without a destination on it. And I think every game has like 10 mysteries that you kind of discover throughout the game and then also solve throughout the game, of course.
Mhm.
Then they also find a photo that is like torn in a bunch of different pieces. But then this detective Chelmy appears because you call like 911, of course, when you step in and see a dead body.
Yeah.
Um, so the detective appears and he's like, "Oh, this is like a crime scene, and you should get out of here." And um, at that point, Luke discovers that there's this like really cartoonish rope made out of like linen from the one building to the other, and a window is opened. So they're like, someone stole this box and left through the window. Um, and then, well, Layton kind of decides, well, we have to solve this mystery, and our only hint is this train ticket. So they go on the train.
Of course they go on the train.
And I love like fictional trains for some reason. Um, maybe this is actually the origin of that, but I just really like trains.
I like
And in this in this in this game, the train is really interesting too. But on the train, you meet some characters, and there's like a small mystery that you solve within the train of like this missing boy that turns out to be a dog, actually. Um, and you meet Mr. Beluga, who is like this millionaire owner of the train. Um, and they also discover that a girl named Flora secretly followed them while they told her to stay at home. Uh, she's a character from the last game.
Mhm.
Um, so this is kind of the crew. It's Professor Layton and two kids, Luke and Flora.
Of course.
Um,
What is an adventure without having children? Should probably not be involved, but are involved anyway.
yeah, exactly. So um, on their it's not really specified where the train is going, I think, or they mention like the some town name that they are going, but um, there is something wrong with the train, and they have to do some maintenance, so they stop in a different town.
Mhm.
Um, and in that town, you do some exploration, and um, yeah, basically, you do some exploration. You find out that the town is actually pretty young. It's like the 50th anniversary. Um, and when they are leaving again, they notice that the daughter of the mayor of the town is sort of secretly also getting on the train. So it's like, ooh, why is she here? Um, and then you're on the train again, and there is one part of the train that you haven't explored yet because it's kind of like the first class wagon of the train. So when you try to go there, it's like the conductor is stopping you, like, "Hey, you can't go in here." Um, but now he's not here, so you open the door by solving a puzzle,
Of course,
and
as you do.
you step into this like train car, and it's yeah, way more luxurious than um, the other parts of the train. But then when the conductor arrives, he just is like, "Oh wow, you're here. Cool. I just have to put these roses in a vase on the table." So you have to solve a puzzle where you place the roses in such a way that the smell reaches all the corners of the train, or something like that.
That's
Um,
cute.
it's really nice because the first game is kind of like, oh yeah, person gives you a random puzzle, and the second game is way better at like integrating those puzzles in the story. And they get better and better as they go.
Mhm.
Um, so um, everyone falls asleep because, as it turns out, the roses emit this sort of smell that makes you fall asleep. Um, Only Luke is sort of half awake still, so he has this dream, and his dream is a puzzle that you have to solve.
Of course.
um, and it's actually really fun because in the first uh, stop for maintenance, you have to do this puzzle where there's a train ahead on you on the tracks, and then you have to like swap the trains around while maintaining their order. Um, and then in this train, or in this puzzle, you're in a tunnel, and you actually have to swap a train again with a different train,
Mhm.
but you have to um, keep one wagon in the same place as it was. So basically, you have a blue train and a red train. Both have like 4 wagons, and you swap the places. Except the blue train now has the red wagon of wagon 3 of the red train, and the red train now has wagon 3 of the blue train. Does
Hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically the first class wagon that Professor Layton and the gang are in.
Okay.
So while they were asleep, someone swapped around those wagons, so they are now going to a different destination than they were going.
Were they caught?
Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I was wondering if they got caught and that's why they got
Um,
swapped around.
no. As it turns out, because like Luke explains this when they wake up, because they all wake up and they're like, "Huh, that was so weird. Why did we fall asleep?" Um, and then the conductor, who is this really energetic guy, uh, says through the intercom like, uh, "Hello everyone, welcome aboard to train to Fall Sands." And then they are like, "Huh, what?" And then Layton looks at his ticket with like no destination on it, and he's like, "Oh, now I get it." Because it's a puzzle, of course.
It's of
Um,
course.
I'm gonna see if I can find a picture. Um, a ticket to where? So then, let's see. I'm gonna show you a puzzle, and now I have to find the solution. Oh, here. So basically, you have this ticket with just some numbers on it. And if you fold it across that middle line, it reads 4 full cents. So
Oh.
basically, what they had a first class ticket without knowing it. And what happens here is this train was just going its regular route, like to random town, except for the people in first class. They were going to this like different town from the start, but it's kind of a secret, so only the first class goes there.
Hmm.
Um, which I find really interesting that they do it through like a puzzle like that. Um, which is nice.
Oh yeah, no, that's I do like how they're using the puzzles to push the plot along in a way
Yeah,
that's not, it doesn't feel entirely forced. It feels natural
yeah,
still.
yeah, and there's still a lot of cases where it is very much forced, but the cases like this are like, oh my god, it was the ticket we had all along. There was actually a destination on it. We just didn't know. Um,
Ta-da.
which are moments that are like, oh my god, nice.
Mhm.
So it's nighttime by now, and when they get out of the tunnel, I think, um, and they arrive at this town that looks deserted. It's completely like dark. They arrive at this train station. completely dark. There's not a single light, and they see all these pictures on the wall of this like super vibrant and like lit up town. I'm gonna see if there's like some concept art for it or something, or if I just have a picture of the town. Oh, there it is. That's a nice picture. So this is one of the pictures that they see, I think.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Um,
So pretty. I love that art style so much.
it's so good. But then um, the vibe that they don't really understand because um, when they were like almost at the town, everything was still really dark and it looked like a ghost town.
Mhm.
Um, and then they see all these pictures in the train station. Um, let's see, I had a picture here too of that. Oh no, never mind. Oh yeah, it's here. There was an HD remake for mobile phones, by the way. So I think you can get
Oh,
the Professor Layton games on the App Store.
okay.
So this
Okay.
is like the train station when it's still pretty dark, but they see all these
Oh.
vibrant pictures, and then there's kind of an earthquake.
Just
And they're like, "Whoa, what the hell is going on?" And everything gets a little bit hazy. And Professor Layton is like, "What? Uh, what just happened?" So they run outside, and then Layton sees this, which is not a dark uh, left town at all. It's a super vibrant, lit up city. So he's like, "Huh?
mm,
What happened? How are we suddenly here? We didn't see this from the inside of the train." Um, and that becomes the sort of central um, mystery of this game for this area.
mhm,
So you explore this town, and you see that the mayor's daughter is also here. So she got on the train to go here, which is like interesting.
mhm.
And you
Sure.
also see the owner of the train that you met on the train here, who was also in the previous town, and like really interested in that town as well and stuff. So um, those are here. The detective is somehow also here. The detective from the start of the game. He's everywhere throughout the game, so he's also here. So basically, all the main characters you met along the way are also here. So you explore the city, and um, you go to a hotel to find like a place to stay here.
Mhm.
Um, and while talking to like all kinds of people after they give you puzzles, of course,
Of
um,
course.
they tell you about this vampire living in the castle in the town. Because
Ugh.
there was a duke living there, he died, and now there is a vampire living in his castle. And the town is cursed, says everyone, but they don't explain. Um, so Layton and Luke go to the museum, um, and they find in front of the museum, because it's still closed, this like strange emblem on the ground. So they ask uh, the detective for the picture that they found right at the start that the detective took, and
Yeah.
then the detective is like, "Oh no, there's a hole in my pocket, and I all the picture pieces are scattered across the town, so you have to find all them, of course." Um, and then you learn that the picture was a picture of the Elysian box, the box that kills you. Um, and on top of it is a goat emblem that's the same as like you see everywhere around this town. So it's like, hey,
Huh.
um the box is connected to this town. Um, but before you can like actually put the fragments together, the middle piece, which has the goat's eyes, is like blown away in the wind. So you have this incomplete picture. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
While you're looking for that, I'm just like, every time you lay more on me, I'm like, "What?
Can you
What?"
follow it a bit though, or is it like
I'm following. I just it's so much more fascinating than I could have expected. Like, I thought it was gonna be really interesting, but it's like, "Hey, yo."
it's like really dense, but also the mysteries are presented in like a really mature way for like this kids game, which is probably the main complaint with the sequel game that they made, is that it's actually like, oh, um, actually the clock for the Big Ben was stolen and replaced with a chocolate cake that the baker made, and it's like, okay, that's just kind of really silly and not as like serious and well thought out as these games are.
Yeah,
So here's the picture with the middle missing. So it kind of looks more like a frog now instead of a goat,
which is clever.
which is really clever. Um, so they go around asking people like, "Hey, what is this this box?" But then they find the detective's assistant, who is like, "Oh, you have to go to the hotel. Everyone has to go there in the big like whodunit moment because the detective has figured it out." Um,
Oh.
so you go to the hotel, and the detective has gathered everyone there. So um, you or Professor Layton, Luke, and Flora, um, the mayor's daughter, the conductor, the owner of the train, who is also the uncle of the conductor, um, and the detective himself, of course. Kind of when you're in this town, you figure out that everyone is kind of looking for the box. You don't know why the mayor's daughter is looking for the box. You don't know why the owner of the train is looking for the box. But Layton, of course, is looking for the box, and the detective is looking for the box because that's connected to a murder case.
Yep.
Um, so the detective says, in this dramatic cutscene, he points towards the conductor. Um, and he says the reasoning is because he wants to beat his uncle to get the box and have it for himself. And
Yes.
Layton is looking at the picture while all of this is happening. And then Flora says, like, oh, that's such a cute goat emblem. Um, but then Layton stops because Flora has been sick at the hotel. She has not seen the finished picture. So
Oh.
Layton stops the detective, Shelmy, and he's like, there is only one person who could, or he's like, there is only one person who could know what the box really looks like, and that must be the murder suspect. Um, so the murderer could only be you, as he points dramatically towards Flora, which is like, what?
Gasp.
Um, One thing I failed to mention is that there's this really dramatic moment in the previous town where Flora seems to be abducted by someone as she loses Layton and Luke in the crowd. Um, let's see if I can find a picture of that. I would have prepared all this, but I've been really busy, so this was really
You're fine.
um, it was really nice that we could fit in this recording.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Oh yeah, you see in a cutscene, you see this, and you hear Flora say like "eek," And then in the
Oh,
next
she's
scene, she's
adorable.
she's there again, and there's just she acts like nothing has happened. Um, so then what's revealed here is that this wasn't Flora, but it was Professor Layton's self-proclaimed evil antagonist guy called Don Paulo, who is a master of disguise.
His Mr. the Monarch.
I don't know that reference.
Have you seen Venture Brothers?
No, I've heard of it.
Oh,
I have
uh,
no idea what it is though.
oh my god. The just so it makes more sense. The Venture Brothers is like kind of Scooby Doo esque, but their dad is a super scientist,
I
and
see.
this guy who his whole thing is that he's like a monarch butterfly has declared himself
Huh?
as his nemesis, but he's kind of a goof and he's not a very good like nemesis to have, and it's just very silly. I'm not doing it justice in this brief explanation, but my brain went, it's like, ah, it's me, Don Paulo, the like goofy kind of nemesis energy.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
Yes.
Like that's exactly what happens. And Don Paulo appeared in the first game where he was disguised as the um detective, the same one that's here now. So um yeah, he's back again, but this time he's disguised as Flora. And it's really funny that they do it in a way where you don't but where they don't really acknowledge Flora's abduction again, because you kind of forget at this point.
Oh no.
So then when Professor Layton points towards Flora, it's like, but then it's like, oh yeah, of course. um, Layton points at Flora. Let's see. I'm trying to find like just the cutscene, but every time Professor Layton does that dramatic point thing.
It's a very important, it's the classic.
I can't really find this except for an actual play playthrough of like that part of the game, but um cutscenes and story. Oh, that's a 2.5 hour video. No, I can't find it right now, but like the it's really like the typical like pointing at the real murderer in a room where everyone all the suspects are there from a detective
Mhm.
series or something. Um, so yeah, Don Paulo is revealed, and he was actually the one who stole the box. Um, so he escapes, but he drops the box when he while he's being pursued by like the rest, basically. So um, Luke sees it, and then the owner of the train demands that he gets the box because it's a family heirloom. Um, but then the bellhop of the hotel says like, you have no claim over this because you abandoned the town 50 years ago and cut all the ties with your family. So then later,
Damn.
damn, it's not appropriate to give you this box. We're gonna keep it until we've like properly solved this mystery.
Yeah.
Um, and Layton is now at a point where he has kind of figured it out for himself. Um, and I think no one else has at this point, but Layton decides that he can open the box at this point. So they go to the room, he opens it, it's completely empty, and they don't die. So they are like, well, what's the mystery of this box?
Hmm.
Um, so they go to the museum, which is open now. They find out that the owner of the train had a brother who apparently still lives in the castle. Um, whoever works at the museum sends them to an abandoned mine where they discover that this family got rich from mining gold. So that's how the owner of the train became like this rich guy.
Mm-hmm.
But they also found another precious metal, um, but it was kind of an unknown metal.
Mm-hmm.
And after they started mining it, some residents got like ill and died. And they figured it was linked to the mine, so they closed it. Um, so logically, the next step is to go to the castle. So they go there, and they are met by um, this brother of the owner of the train, Anton, and they are like, "What is going on?" Because he looks exactly the same as the portraits from 50 years ago. So they are like,
Huh.
"Is this actually a vampire guy?"
Yes.
Um, so they have dinner there, and it's late at that point. So they are invited to stay for the night, which is not as much an invitation as a "you are staying the night"
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal. And um, they go to bed, and then they have this weird vision of themselves. They see a picture, and then they have this weird kind of dream vision thing, where they see this Anton dancing with a woman who looks a lot like the daughter of the mayor. They dance, and then all of a sudden they stop dancing and they stare at Layton and Luke with red eyes. And then Layton and Luke wake up and they are tied up in a storage room. And Anton um, says that he must make preparations for dinner and that the two of them should enjoy their last moments they have in each other's company.
Hey, yo.
So it's like, goddamn, okay, this guy is a vampire and he's gonna eat us. Um,
No.
but of course, Layton wouldn't be Layton if he wouldn't escape from a situation like this. He does it all the time. You, of
Mm-hmm.
course, escape through a puzzle, I
Of
think.
course.
Um, so they head for the exit. Uh, um, but then they find the daughter of the mayor here, who's like, "What are you doing here?" And they are like, "What are you doing here?"
Mm.
Um, but she is like, "It's not safe here. We must go." So they run to the exit. Then this, um, then Anton shows up, and he sees Katya is the daughter of the mayor. He's
Mm-hmm.
shocked. He's like absolutely shocked, and he gets like so angry at Professor Layton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is the part where I told you that I had to share like the coolest Professor Layton cutscene ever with you.
Yes.
Um, I'm gonna throw it in the chat. Do you want to just watch it right now?
Yeah. I'll watch it.
Do do we wanna watch it at the same time?
Yeah, we can do that. You let me know when to click play.
Now?
Okay.
Now. So they are running,
This
and this
won't
guy
do.
appears.
People are trying to sleep, you know. Is it you? It can't be.
It's very anime.
Oh,
Very.
how I've waited. It's been so unbearably long.
Professor, do you know what he's talking about?
Not in the slightest.
Come closer. My dear sweet Sophia, I've missed you so. What's this? Very
They
well,
didn't
then.
make his voice
Is
actor's
this
so
how it
hot.
is?
What the
I
fuck?
didn't see this
Yep.
coming, Layton.
They did it on
Not
purpose.
At all.
I'm not sure I understand.
This is your fault, but you can't have my Sophia. You're going to be very sorry you crossed me.
Yo.
There's no lack of swords here. Take
So
whichever
this
one
is actually
you
a
like.
puzzle. You have to
Know
pick a
this,
sword
though.
at this point.
Only one of them
So he
is
gives this
real.
hint, and based on that, you have to pick a sword.
A true warrior always keeps his blade in hand.
And then it's
I
revealed
didn't
that
think you
Professor
had it in
Layton
you,
is
Mr.
like
Layton.
a crazy good sword fighter.
He would be, though. This is giving me such Lupin the Third energy.
Yes!
I love Lupin the Third.
And the music is so good too.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of the vibe that the music has in the entire game. It's really good.
Sophia belongs to me. You can't have her. Ah!
Oh, this is so good.
And this is the HD version, but this was originally on the DS, like so good.
Something strange is happening. I just need to catch my breath.
No more! Please, just stop!
What's happened to me?
Are you all right?
Please just stop, Grandfather. Your body can't take it.
What did you say? I don't understand. Sophia, dear.
You haven't figured it out, have you? You really don't know. Then I guess it's up to me to tell you the truth.
Gasp.
Gasp. So, for the listeners who are not watching this video right now, what we just saw was what I explained, right? The daughter of the mayor shows up. They run towards the door. Anton stops them. And then he sees that Kadia is sort of hiding behind Professor Layton. So he looks at them and he's like enraged and starts like sword fighting Professor Layton in like this really, really epic cutscene. But then he gets super tired at one point. So he's like, I just have to catch my breath. And then Kadia's like, no, stop. Your body can't handle it. Please stop, grandfather. And then it's like, what?
What?
But like, I don't know. What do you think is going on at this point, Roma?
You mentioned earlier something about a metal that made people ill,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. I've been wondering when that's going to come up.
Mhm.
So I don't know if like maybe the sword he was using like had that on it or what. Or he just ran out of blood because he's a vampire.
Fair. No, so now Keria, like the cutscene ends with Keria saying, like, I guess I have to tell you the truth. So she explains that she is Anton's granddaughter. And he's like, what the hell? I'm way too young to be anyone's grandfather. And Keria begins to explain that, like, your youth is only an illusion. And then Layton is like, let me explain the rest. Because he
Oh
has
my God.
figured it out. So 50 years ago, the miners found the weird metal, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the portrait of Anton when he looked the same as now was also 50 years ago.
Hmm.
And the creation of the other town that we went to was also 50 years ago.
Huh.
And the brother of Anton, who is the owner of the train, the luxury train thing, also left 50 years ago. So like, you were right that everything is kind of connected to the metal that they found 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like scrolling through because yeah, they found a precious metal. Along with the metal, there was a hallucinogenic gas. Is that how you pronounce that? I don't know.
Hallucinogenic gas.
Hallucinogenic gas. Um, it has by now, because the castle underneath it has this giant hole because the mines were under the castle. It's this giant gaping hole. So all this gas is still like coming out and covering this entire town. So everyone is under the effect of the illusions right now. This is what
Oh.
happened when they arrived at the train station. They saw those pictures on the walls of the train station. And then when that earthquake happened and everything got hazy, was when they started like hallucinating that the town that they were in was the town from the pictures.
Oh.
And the entire town and all the residents that you talk to, um, they weren't real. They were hallucinations based on how they were 50 years ago. So Anton explains that he fell in love with this woman, Sophia, but that she abandoned him, saying that there was someone else who needed love more than him. And Katia explains that she didn't fall in love with someone else, but that she was referring to the fact that she was pregnant, and that she had to leave because that town was so dangerous, with like all the people dying because of their curse that they didn't know was because of the gas. But then Katia explains that her grandmother died giving birth, I think, or maybe later.
No.
Maybe later she died. At least it was super tragic. She died. Anton refuses to accept this, so he starts to like go berserk and smash everything with his sword. He hits a cable that holds a chandelier up, which falls down. The floor cracks. The entire castle starts to like fall apart into the massive hole underneath it. So they all have to like run and go out. Um, what happens is, and this is kind of where you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit further.
Just a
Um,
little bit.
the mine is underneath the castle. The castle is like suspended above it. Let's see. I can find a picture real quick. So it looks they really went for a super spooky vampire castle aesthetic.
Yeah.
But you see this big hole underneath it, and basically the entire castle and the small island stuff that it's still on falls into the mine and basically like closes it off, which stops the gas from flowing, which basically immediately has effect, which is kind of like,
Mm.
So you see that they are in an abandoned, desolate place with ruins and shit. Everything is dark. And Anton turns out to be like this really old man.
Oh
um,
no.
50 years older than he looked because he only looked like that because of the illusion. Um,
So he's not as hot as we thought he was.
no, and his voice also becomes this like old man's voice.
Oh
So
no.
this is actually him.
Oh, he still looks sweet though. Sweet
Yeah.
old man.
Um, Professor Layton gives the box back to him because it was originally his, and he sent a letter in it to Sophia, asking her why she left and that he had always remembered her and will never stop loving her, basically.
Oh.
Um, what Layton explains is that the Elysian box is made out of the metal that they found in the mines. So it's sort of infused with this gas, and remnants of the gas remain in it. So everyone who opened it was already under the impression that they were going to die because that was the whole thing of the box. So they basically hallucinated themselves to death because they were like, I'm gonna die when I open this. Then they opened it, and the hallucination basically made them die because they expected it. So Professor Layton had kind of figured it out, question mark, when he opened it. So he knew that he wasn't going to die. So he didn't. And it's so
That's-
stupid, but it's
I
so
love it.
good.
I love his resolve so much.
Yes. So like this is what I meant with like, oh yeah, a box that kills you when you open it, that's totally unbelievable. But then like this hallucinogenic gas that gaslights you into believing there's a town and everything is like 50 years in the past, completely believable.
Yeah, so everyone got gaslit to death, and then Professor Layton's like, gaslight? No,
Literally.
just gatekeep girl boss. Let's go.
Uh, um, so Anton explains that he had made this box to send a letter to Sophia. But because it was so valuable, it kept getting stolen. So he was like, oh, so it must have never reached her. But then Luke is like, no, the box is empty when we checked it. So Anton says, no, there is a second way to open it. And then there's this puzzle that you have to solve to open the box with some hints.
Mm-hmm.
And then they discover a letter in it. So it's at first presumed that that's Anton's letter to Sophia. But then it's actually a letter that Sophia wrote him. So his letter did reach her. And she explains that she never told him that she was carrying their baby because she knew he wouldn't leave Folsens because he was the next in line to rule it. She wishes to meet him again in the next life because she doesn't have much longer. And then Anton smiles at the end and in tears, and he says to Sophia in the sky, I hope you can forgive me, my dear, but our reunion on the other side will have to wait a little longer because I have someone here that I need to get to know first. And then he puts his arm around his granddaughter. And by this point, I'm always in tears crying because, like, gosh, it is such a tragic story. And, like,
My
and then the
feelings.
music and it's so good. And it's like, and that's the genius of Professor Layton, where every single like hint you get throughout the game and every single mystery and stuff is ultimately connected to this. Where it's like, oh yeah, the first town that they go to, that's the town where all the people who used to live in Folsens went because they basically fled it because it was too dangerous because people were dying and a vampire was now in the castle. So they all left and they found this new town, which lines up with like what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the very, very happy ending is that they find out that Professor Layton's mentor was not actually dead, but just in a coma.
Oh, yes, my homeboy.
But all the other people who died when they opened the box, no one knows.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, yeah. And on the way there, on the entire journey, you get like all these mini games. So on the train, there is a hamster. There's like a cook, and he feeds all the leftovers to the hamster. So the hamster is super fat. And then they stumble upon that in the kitchen of the train, and they're like, oh my god, the owner of the train is probably like gonna fire you for like health regulations because you have a fucking hamster here.
Yo.
And he's like, oh, I know, but I love this hamster so much. And then he asks you to take care of him. So you bring him along on your journey, and you get like these toys for the hamster when you solve certain puzzles. And then the hamster helps you find hint coins. And Luke can talk to animals, by the way.
Sounds about right.
And then as you as you go through the mini game, the hamster gets like fitter and fitter and can help you find more coins. And then finishing that mini game gives you some bonus post game puzzles. There's a tea mini game where basically people in Fall Sense are like really tired or like low energy, and then you have to mix these different tea leaves together to give them the perfect blend that will help them. I don't know, cure their cold or energize them or relax them or whatever personal thing they have.
Mm-hmm.
In Falsens, you also find the old diary from Anton, and like the pages are literally locked, so you have to solve certain puzzles from people, and then you suddenly just get a key and you can read another entry. Um, so it just feels really alive, the world. So.
I really love that. I didn't know there was a hamster. That's so cute.
Yeah, every game has a different animal. So the what does the first game have? I don't actually remember, but the third game has a parrot, and the fourth game has a fish, and they all have these mini games. It's really fun.
That does sound really.
Yeah, and then the puzzles are just so much fun. I'm gonna look up one puzzle. See if I can find it, because there's a lot of tricks, like I said. And there's this like really 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 stupid puzzle that's also just really funny. And everyone like hates it because you get really stuck on it, and then it's this one. I'm gonna throw it in the chat right here. So this is in the town when they are talking about a vampire, and there's this guy in a shop who has his entire shop filled with garlic to ward off the vampire.
Mhm.
But then all the food that he sells tastes like garlic now, so no one buys his stuff anymore. Um,
No.
and then there's one guy in front of the shop who's like, "Oh, everything smells like garlic," and blah blah blah. Please help me out. And then you have to solve this puzzle where there's this kind of maze, and there's two garlics and one flower, and it's like, oh, you have two corks, and it's like, oh, at what holes do you have to put the cork to stop the garlic smell? um, but then when you try to solve this puzzle, you find that all three of them lead to garlic. So it's like, huh? What you have to do is you have to click on his nose holes to plug them so he doesn't smell the garlic anymore.
Oh, that's
And that's
good.
like, it's good, but it's like, it's like you really have to know Professor Layton to kind of be able to solve that puzzle. Um, there's so many. There's also like really classic puzzles, and what's fun is when you solve them, you sometimes get this explanation of, oh, this is actually a variant of the Towers of Hanoi, I think. Hanoi, I think. Um, the towers or the pyramid puzzle, or it was apparently made in France in 1883. And then they give you that kind of lore behind the puzzle too,
Mhm.
um, which is also like, it's really cool. And then there's chess puzzles where you have to basically you get this chessboard and you start at one point with a knight, and then you have to um, fill every square that you step on gets like filled in, and then you have to fill the entire board by just hopping around without touching the same square twice, which is like
Huh.
really difficult. But like that's also apparently like a really old puzzle that people back in the day made.
Mhm.
Um, and some of them are like really plot relevant, and others are really just like you meet a guy on the street and he's like, oh, I've been stuck on this puzzle for 2 weeks, can you please help me?
Mhm.
And then you help him, and then it's like a really easy maze, and it's like you were stuck on this for 2 weeks.
My guy, what are you doing?
um, but that's just yeah. I don't know. It's really fun, and also sometimes you just tap on like a clock or something, and then Professor Layton is, "Oh, Luke, did I ever tell you about this puzzle about a clock?" And then he just gives you a puzzle.
I love
It's
Professor Layton.
wonderful. It's wonderful. And then every game has this like massive mystery that you solve, which like in the original trilogy, it gets like bigger and bigger and bigger to a point where it's like, oh my gosh. Um, the third game is wild, but also really good, and you get a lot of backstory for Layton himself too, and a
Mhm,
lot of characterization, which is really nice.
mhm,
And then the first prequel game kind of tones it down a bit, but then the other two become they really become this like grand trilogy with like so many plot twists and crazy stuff happening. And yeah, it's great. I really love these games because usually you have either a puzzle game or like a really story driven, um, like visual novel almost kind of game.
mhm,
And it's kind of rare that they manage to combine the two so well, as in like Professor Layton.
mhm.
Um, I saw on Tumblr like literally last week, I think,
Mhm.
this one post that was like, uh, do you know the meme with like the three cats and then it's like the brothers? Um, I don't think you know it.
No, I haven't been on Tumblr in a minute.
Um, oh no, I can't find it.
Oh, no. It'll probably show up in my life now that you've mentioned it.
Ah, I found. Oh, it's kind of. This is the meme format, at least, which is like
Yeah.
these three cats, and then the one cat says, "I'm saturation," and it's super saturated. The one says, "I'm you," and it's kind of purple, and the other is super bright and says, "I'm brightness," and then on the bottom it's the caption, "The Colors Brothers."
They're
Um,
so cute.
and I saw this one with one Ace Attorney, then another one Ghost Trick, and then the Brothers, and like those three games really are like special in the sense that they manage to combine a plot with like puzzles so well.
Mhm,
And I think that's what makes me like really vibe with them. It's wonderful. The stories, the characters. Like I said, the story somehow always makes me cry, even though I've played this game like 5 times already at this point.
mhm. I am already falling in love with it, and I have been eyeballing Ghost Trick too. So
Ghost Trick is so good.
and I get it on my Switch? Question
Yes.
mark.
Yes.
Yes?
It recently, like last year-ish, got released for the Switch.
Yeah, baby, let's go.
I highly recommend it because it's a pretty short game. Um, everyone I've seen talk about Ghost Trick is like, I am in love with this game. I've not heard like a negative thing about that game.
With Ghost Trick, I want do you know who Secret Sleepover Society is? Or Drawfee?
Ooh, I've definitely heard of it because my girlfriend really likes Drawfee,
Mhm.
and I've been meaning to check it out, but I don't really know.
I can't tell you, how many times because I watch Secret Sleepover Society, live streams when I go to sleep, and so, I've probably watched all of their streams just in my sleep, but,
Is this a couple from Drawfee?
yeah, it's Jacob and
Oh,
Aunt Julia.
Yeah, I think my girlfriend like loves watching those two, so she often tells me stories about them. So
Mhm. They
yes,
play
I'm vaguely familiar.
they played Ghost Trick, and so I have vague knowledge of it through them, but I always wake up at the end, so I think I've been I think I've been spoiled? Question mark. But I still want to see what happened to get to the point that they got to.
Yeah, no, man, Ghost Trick is so good. Welcome to the Hyperfixation. In today's episode, we're gonna talk about Ghost Trick.
We're pivoting. It's a 2-for-1 special, baby.
And then after that, we do Ace Attorney, and then this is the Plaquas puzzle game episode.
Buy two, get one free.
Brothers.
Or we do 3 episodes this season. You show up
Hmm.
3 times.
Hmm.
Plausible. Let me hear it. If you want it, tell us in the Discord. If there's a want, if there's a demand, there is a supply.
There's a demand. Uh,
But yes, I need to get both that and Professor Layton, Ghost Trick and Professor Layton on
yes.
Twitch.
And then Ace Attorney too. Yeah,
Ace Attorney too.
because the Professor Layton games are not on the Switch, but the new one is coming on the Switch. And I do, or well, it's coming in 2025, so like maybe on Switch too.
Maybe.
Either way, that would probably be a game that they do kind of do a soft like reboot for it, that you can just play that game without playing the others. But
Should
yeah,
I just Oh, sorry. I live near a retro gaming store. I recently purchased a Nintendo Wii and a GameCube.
ooh,
And so my brain's just like, maybe I do need to buy that Nintendo DS that I've been eyeballing at the store and I can get Professor
ooh.
Layton.
Yeah, I don't know. You should check how available like a secondhand copy of Professor Layton is of the
It'll
games.
be expensive as hell, but I think I could get my hands on it.
Or you could buy a 3DS and like you know, it's really easy.
What? Oh, are you talking about doing something that requires a pirate hat and a patch?
Something like that.
Okay.
For the 3DS, it's really easy. It's kind of a meme, but also I did it. It's really easy. Um, I am eyeballing a new 3DS XL with a capture card installed, so I can like
Mm.
stream and record. They are like hella expensive, but also I've been really wanting one because like there are so many good like 3DS and DS games.
Worth it.
Um, and some that I just also really want to stream and just record gameplay for.
Mhm.
Um, so I have been eyeballing that.
You should you should just buy it. We should
I'm,
both buy
I'm
3DSs.
definitely gonna save up for it, I think. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I have to wait till after the move for sure. But
same.
ooh, we have a pact now.
We have a pact. We need to find a third one so we can be the Move Brothers.
Yes, Jakey, I'm looking at you. Get a 3DS with us. Oh my goodness. I love this feeling that I get at the end of every episode where I immediately fall in love with whatever like you're telling me about. Um, it helps that I in the past that I loved Kingdom Hearts, but I would like love it even more that I understand it better. But today
Yeah.
you've introduced to me something completely brand new that I knew very little, like almost nothing about. And I'm like, yes, I'm obsessed. All right, give me one right now, please. Thank you.
Yeah. And what you said with like the art style, it's so it has so much soul and so much personality and it
I agree. And
it's
it's like the
so
more I
good.
look at it, it gives me a little like more and more like Lupin the Third if it was cuter.
Yeah, and the character designs are also just really fun because they are so like funky.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like all the characters are like kind of weird. They are like just kind of weird,
They're
but
loud.
in like a really good way. And there's this one character that appears in the first game and then also in the second game he also appears. So you're like, "Hey, it's you." And he's like, "What? I've never seen you before. Anyway, did you know that if you press this bush, you get a hint coin?" And they're like,
Oh my god.
and then in the third game, he tries to explain, but they're like, "Yeah, this guy just told us." And he gets like super flustered. He's like, "What? Someone already told you? Uh,
What?
oh, he's like, "But that's kind of my thing. I always tell you." And then they are like, "What? So you did meet us before?" And then it's like, "No." And then he leaves.
Oh my
It's
god.
it's just like I
That
said,
shit
so much
cute.
character and so yeah, so good.
So good. I'm in
Luke has
love.
been basically on top of my list of characters I want to play in Interstitial.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It would be so good.
I have a running list too. I understand the emotion.
I have a big list.
Big list. Oh my goodness. So, Professor Layton, do you have is this a good time to bring in closing thoughts, or did you have anything else that you wanted to touch upon?
No, this is a good time to go for closing thoughts.
Closing
We
thoughts.
definitely stayed within the timer.
Yeah.
Very much. Um, but yeah, I always feel with these episodes that I just like ramble so much about one thing that it's like, is it even coherent and followable? But then it's also like, well, this is the hyperfixation
That's the
podcast.
whole point of my show. We ramble about things that we're happy about.
Yeah. I'm always
Gives me
just really
joy.
happy when we do an episode and you're just so excited about it.
I'm I'm my Switch is not within arm's reach, otherwise I'd be purchasing Ghost Trick right now.
You should probably just wait for a discount because I think they're pretty often.
Okay. Wait for a sale. On it.
Yeah.
Heard. And then I was already looking up the Professor Layton games on my phone.
I don't know how they are, but I can imagine that they are pretty good HD remasters.
I'll find
Um,
out.
whatever you do though, don't buy the Layton Brothers game.
No? Is that
I
his kids?
no,
The knockoff
I
or
I
something?
don't know what it is, but like at one point they just made Layton Brothers Mystery Room, and I don't know if anyone ever played it. I've never heard anyone talk about this.
Hmm.
Maybe I should play it sometime, but it's kind of weird, I think. Um, and yeah, the Layton's Mystery Journey is the sequel one, which is also kind of like eh. Oh, they have Layton Trilogy bundle, which is the 3 games that you want to have.
The trilogy?
Yeah.
You. Okay.
Those are the 3 that you want to have, so, um, it's Curious Village, Pandora's Box, or, probably,
Diabolical box.
Diabolical Box for you, yeah, and, uh, The Lost Future? Or is it The Unwound Future for you?
The unwound future.
Yeah. I don't know why they have different names in Europe and Australia, but they do.
That's okay.
Yeah. Also, one closing thought I have is at one point, when the sequel game was going to release, they had this massive ARG as a promotion kind of thing.
Mhm.
Uh, and I actually played through that ARG, which was like one of the coolest things I did online, I think.
I've never done an ARG. I should do that.
It was crazy because they did it like all over the world. They had these puzzles that just that was just a guy on the street with like a top hat and this puzzle there, and they had this website where you could sort of talk to other people with like this really bad Google Translate feature to like share hints with each other and stuff, and
Oh my
it was
god.
really cool to like go through that.
I love that so much. How what a time to be alive. Like,
Yeah,
I love the internet.
me too. And I love podcasts that I can be a part of,
Oh,
like this one.
yeah. So goodness gracious. You got me doing the uwu finger. Like, oh, my little podcast.
Yes. I always
Ooh.
just also really love listening. I've listened to every episode up to this point, and it's it's just so much fun to like hear these things that I would normally like not really hear about or not really have an interest in, but like hear someone so passionately talk about it and feel I'm gonna steal your bit, but feel like I have like an approximate knowledge of it now, and I often find myself rambling to like my girlfriend or something like, "Oh yeah, they talked about that on the hyperfixation," and
That makes my
yeah,
heart. Oh my no, you're gonna make me cry. Oh,
you make a really good podcast, and I'm really happy that I've been part of quite a few seasons so far, even
thank
though
you.
I always get imposter syndrome, like, "Ah, I'm not good enough to be a guest host."
You laugh about. I was do you know I flex every single time you come in the show, I'm like flexing. I'm like, I got Plaquas, motherfuckers. I'm like flexing. Yeah, just hair flip. It's just, I'm recording with Plaquas later, no big deal. Uh,
I'm
no, but
flattered.
thank you. No, I'm dying. That my, I don't, you know how people get bad brain? They're like, I don't know. I don't think people actually like my show, or like,
Yeah.
you just get bad brain sometimes. And you just cured it. You just cured my bad brain. Now I'm like, I'm a puddle. I'm like, ah.
I'm glad I could help. You always cure my bad brain when you invite me for an episode because then I'm like,
Yay!
phew, they still want me on.
Of course I do. Oh my god. See, look at this. This is friendship.
This is friendship.
And listeners at home, you just heard us squishy. That's friendship.
Yes.
Friendship. Oh goodness. Ow, my face. I'm smiling. Oh my goodness. I don't know how to segue from here. Um, before we went on our a very mushy segue. Is there anything else that we're missing from Professor Layton?
Probably like 1,000 things, but I tried to go through the plot like quite fast and mainly focus on that last part of the game, which is also like the strongest. And I don't know, I could rant for hours about like how good
There's
the puzzles are, and I think I've said everything that I need to say, but probably rambled a bit more. But yeah, no, that was Professor Layton.
Professor Layton.
And that was specifically the second game, of course. So I did spoil all the mysteries for you. I'm so sorry, but uh, there's 5 more really good games for you to enjoy. So
I don't know. I mean, I'm still gonna go play it. So
And
I
cry at the end.
yeah, I live my life spoiled though. People are like, I don't want to spoil this for you. I'm like, no, tell me now.
Yeah, I have a really, really sort of I have mixed feelings about that because some of like my really good memories are just like letting someone completely spoil things and then like going sort of through it with that person together or something, or also like finally filling in the blanks. But recently I've also just gone through a lot of things blind. So one of my other hyperfixations right now is like the Tatami Galaxy and adjacent novels slash anime adaptations,
Hmm.
which was almost what I was going to do this episode about.
Very
um
close.
but I've gone into those blind, and they've like also like kind of I think the Tatami Galaxy is my favorite anime.
Hmm.
And I went in it blind and was completely like surprised by it, and I've had that experience a lot lately. And that I really like that experience of going into something blind and having expectations and like completely throwing those out of the window.
Hmm.
But I also don't really mind spoilers.
Hmm. You know, I think the only two things that I could relate to that on, because again, I live my life spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
The Apothecary Diaries, I went in
Ooh.
blind, and that was amazing. I'm so glad I went into that blind. Uh, and Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon
Oh
Meshi.
yes.
Yeah, I knew nothing about that show. It just kept popping up for me on Netflix, and I was like, fine, fine, I'll give it a shot. And it's consumed my entire being.
Yeah. It's
So,
so good.
we'll keep an eyeball out for that at some point.
Ooh.
That's a hint coin for you. Oh, did I do that right?
It's perfect.
Yeah, I did it.
Actually, that
Huzzah.
reminds me that I need to show you a picture of the hamster.
Please do. Show me the hamster. Oh my god. Hey, little guy. Hey, little man. My
Yeah.
goodness. He
You
just
can
needs.
nickname him because he's your pet from then on, and I called mine Luxord, of course.
Of course. That all hamsters are.
There we go. I made the Luxord reference. We can end the episode now.
The would be funny if it was an actual hard cut, but we didn't need to do outro. Ah. So, are you ready to do outro?
Sure.
Okay. Where can we find you on the
Mostly still Twitter, to be honest, at Plaquas. Um, I have a Tumblr, which is also Plaquas, I think, but I don't really do a lot with it. Um, I'm on Discord,
Mhm.
in the Hyperfixation Discord.
Mhm.
I'm on YouTube at Plaquas. I haven't done anything in like a long time. I think the last thing I did was actually a playthrough of the first Professor Layton game. I didn't get very far before I got like 2 episodes in, I think, before I was not in a position where I could record anymore.
Mhm.
And that's been a long time, but I did briefly touch upon a move coming soon. Um, and I think after I've moved, I'm gonna see if I can stream a little bit more again and
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
record a
Mhm.
video
Mhm.
here and there. Possibly a podcast project, who knows? I
Who
certainly don't,
knows?
but I have a lot of ideas, so maybe there will be more things for me to plug soon.
Stay
Maybe not.
tuned. Stay
But
tuned.
I do have a lot of ideas that I want to finally do something with. So I'm gonna see about this. Maybe in the 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 second half of the year or maybe next year, but who knows? Stay tuned.
Mm-hmm. Stay tuned. Oh my goodness. Um, my turn now, right?
Yes, go
Brain
ahead.
smooth. You can find me on the internet at I appreciate your butt at the twitter.com. That is IAPPRECI, the number 8 URBT. And you can find me there and Tumblr and Blue Sky. But you can find this podcast as an entire whole at the Hyperfix Pod on Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok. Which is where most of our activity is.
Ooh.
Yeah, I do a lot of TikTok and stuff. And YouTube. You can find us at YouTube, but that's gonna be under I appreciate your butt. Let's see what else. Thank you to the Moonshot Network for letting us do all this fun, cool stuff. You can find the
Thank
Moonshot
you.
Network at Moonshot Pods at the twitter.com or Moonshot Network on Twitch and YouTube. Our intro and outro music is thanks to Offuscate. That is OFUSKATE. And thank you to our patrons. If you want to get episodes early, even for just a little $1, you can support us at patreon.com/the hyperfixation. Let's see. I think that's it. I
Yay.
ran out of oxygen.
Can I do one more last thought on Professor Layton? Because I just
Yeah.
realized something. I mentioned at the start that it's one of those games that really affected me and changed me. And one of the aspects about that is that Professor Layton is always like, he's always staying calm. He's always helping people out. And he's like, Luke sometimes has a bit of a temper, and then Professor Layton is, well, remember, Luke, a real gentleman would help someone in need, regardless of their situation or something like that. And that really has always, as a child, been like, oh yeah, what would Professor Layton do? He would be kind. He would help people. I have to be like Professor Layton. That was kind of a big influence when I was young. Just trying to be kind and helping people. Because
I
Professor Layton taught me to.
I love that Professor Layton is your voice of reason in your head. My therapist
Yeah.
is my voice of reason. Like
Yeah.
what would Sam tell me to do?
So that was the real final thought.
Well, thank you for joining me on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. If you let me know when, you know what, our audience will let us know when you're coming back, Professor Layton or Ghost Tricks.
Yes.
We're waiting. You tell us. And then Jakey, don't forget about that 3DS.
The 3DS brothers.
Yes. Be safe. Don't die. Drink your water and Badoop.
Ba-doop.
Doop.